All right, LBHT crew, you're a little disappointed today. Okay, the Ravens got your hopes up high. We're riding high, then low, then high. Okay, now we're low again because the Ravens are who we thought they were.
They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Which is not a very good team led by a great quarterback. Okay, and it played out this weekend against the Eagles. Congratulations to the Eagles. They're one of the top teams in the league, and they showed it. The Ravens showed why sometimes they can look like a top team and other times look like not a very good team, a very undisciplined team that can do everything wrong but still stay in the game because of their quarterback.
Yeah, Lamar didn't have his best game. If he had had his best game, they would have won. That's kind of how it goes in Baltimore. He missed a few throws, but overall he played fine. The O-line, they didn't play fine. They didn't utilize the run game the way they need to. Lamar Jackson had 79 yards rushing in this one, and I still see a lot of people saying, "Oh, he's got to run more. He's got to run more." No, Derrick Henry needs to run more. Justice Hill needs to run more, and Keaton Mitchell needs to be active and actually run the ball. That's a coaching thing. You should not be asking for your quarterback who through 13 games has 670 yards. You should not be asking him to run more. You should not want your quarterback to run more than take that many hits. The defense played okay, better than they had been.
Yes,
but the Eagles were without Devontae Smith, so it was a little bit easier than it would be normally against Philly. But they played fine for the most part. Again, it comes down to what we talked about prior to the season. The fact that you went out there with three guys on the O-line who have no experience, and it's showing, right? They're not able to consistently protect the wide receivers. We love Zay. He's having a good season. Rashad Bateman, he got hurt in this game, but he's been having a good season. But they weren't able to step up and really make plays. They weren't able to consistently get open. And Nelson Aguilar had a couple drops. It's why we said go after Devontae Adams, right? Because they're trying desperately year after year to get by with the absolute bare minimum, and it's kind of infuriating because every time you give Lamar something on offense, he takes his game to another level, right? When they obviously early on he had a really good O-line and he played really well, won MVP. They brought in Bateman and Zay. He went to another level. He won MVP. They brought in Derrick Henry. He's playing better than he ever has in his career. He's on track to win the third MVP. And it's like, why don't you look at that and say, hey, we need to really blow it out on the offensive side of the ball. We need to protect him. We need to get high-end weapons and good coaching, because I don't really think Todd Monken's doing a great job. If you look at the numbers, Lamar Jackson right now is the most efficient quarterback in the league when he's not blitzed. And he's the most efficient quarterback in the league when he's blitzed. So, there's nobody at that position playing better than Lamar. And it feels like the Ravens either don't understand what they have in Lamar Jackson or just don't really care, because they're wasting a pretty special talent.
Yeah, I just think it's lazy coaching and it's lazy movement by the front office. And I'm talking about Eric DeCosta. And I'm going to keep slamming Eric DeCosta because, like you mentioned, the O-line. I think one of the most important positions that we had to fix this offseason was the O-line, that unit. And they did the opposite of that. They completely ignored it, if we're being honest. Drafting a second round or third round? A second.
Not even ignored it. They actively dismantled it, right? Because they let Zeitler and the other guard walk, and then they traded Morgan Moses.
Yes. And you decided it's not worth spending the first round pick to get an offensive lineman. Let's get Rosengard in the second round. And for a second round pick, he's playing solid, right? But we need more than that. We're trying to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, they wanted to go with Andrew Voorhees. I don't know why they thought he was the answer before even taking a look at him in training camp. Okay, people were talking about him as being the starter, and he got his shot to be a starter. He's not a starter anymore.
They swept that under the rug real quick, didn't they?
Real quick.
Like two games, and yeah, Pat's gonna go out there. Andrew's got a little thing, and then 10 weeks later, they're like, who's Andrew Voorhees?
And I don't want to slam these guys. They're out there trying their best, but Pat McCarry, who we signed to be a rotational player, is out there as a starter. He's one of the most penalized linemen in the league. Okay, and it's one thing if you don't have the talent up front, but when you're not disciplined, that makes it even worse. We get so many penalties, pre-snap penalties, ineligible receiver downfield,
procedural stuff.
Yeah. So those are things that are within your control as coaches, as players, and they're not getting fixed. So back to your point, they're not being coached well. Todd Monken, I gave a lot of praise early on because the offense looked really, really explosive. But I'm just seeing plays being called, especially in this game, near the goal line, in the red zone. It's just like, well, why did you run that play? Why are you running a reverse? It's just stupid calls like that where you're making it harder. You're trying to get cute when you don't need to get cute, because Lamar is going to make it work, right? Like that's what you're banking on. Even later in the game where, okay, we're not really looking explosive, but the defense is doing their job and keeping them from scoring, forcing punts. Where's the sense of urgency? You're playing for field goals when your kicker can't make them.
Playing for long field goals.
Yeah. So poor coaching all around. I mean, you guys are starting to come around to our side of things. You're not as high John Harbaugh as you were 2 years ago when we were saying fire John Harbaugh. 3 years ago, actually. You're not really defending that anymore. Zach Orr, I know a lot of people are down on Zach Orr. We're not as down on Zach Orr just because he's brand new. That whole coaching staff on the defensive side is brand new. He looks like he's starting to figure some things out on the defensive side, but still, the problem, I think, that goes above him. That's an EDC thing. You spent so much of the cap, you spent so much of your high draft picks getting defenders, and they're playing better, but they're not making plays. So while we're relying on Lamar, the reason why people out there are blaming Lamar for the loss is because he didn't make that special play. He didn't make that extra play. He didn't run and do something to really take over the game. But that's the defense's job, right? According to how the money is distributed on the team, the defense is supposed to go out there and force turnovers. The defense is supposed to go out there and get a pick six. The defense is supposed to go out there and they force a fumble, they didn't recover it. You got to recover it. You got to make timely plays. And they haven't been doing that all year. I don't want to give them too much props for playing better. They were supposed to be a top defense to start the season out with. So they really held this team back. I don't blame Zach Orr. Right now, he part of the solution. He's learning on the job. But again, who gave him the job?
Yeah.
Who allowed him to give him the job? Those are front office moves, coaching moves that we just allowed to happen for too long, and it's starting to catch up to the team. Now, it's all is not lost. Right now, we're still in the playoffs. I think like 6th seed or something like that. And looking ahead, coming off, we have a bye coming off the bye. Got the Giants. That's a win. All right.
We'll see.
Yeah, no, it's a win. We marked it down as a win. And the Steelers, again, we'll see about that. I expect them to be the Steelers, but that's never a gimme. And we play the Texans, and I forget the last team we played, the Browns, I believe.
Yeah.
So favorable schedule, I would say, but it's all about executing. It's all about them being locked in. They are a talented team. They are good enough to be a Super Bowl caliber team, but they're not playing like it. So it's not just on Lamar to try to get this team ready to go. It's on the coaching staff. It's on John Harbaugh. Will John Harbaugh have this team ready to play, especially coming out of a bye? We'll see.
No, he won't. That game, I think they'll beat New York, but it's going to be closer than it should be. And I think it'll be ugly, but they'll get the win. Like you mentioned, it's discussing how little people put on the defense at Baltimore. Like, I've seen people talk about Justin Tucker, and Justin Tucker's obviously well past his prime. This should be the last season he's the kicker in Baltimore. He's missed, I believe, 8 kicks so far this year. But I've seen people say, hey, without Justin Tucker missing those kicks, Baltimore could be undefeated. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, so nothing for the worst defense in the league? It was Justin Tucker who lost those games? When you were giving up 30 every week? It was on the kicker? Because he missed a kick? No. Nobody is ever going to be willing to come down on the defense the way they need to come down on the defense. Right? It's always going to be something else. It's always going to be Lamar first. It'll be coaching, and rightfully so with the coaches. It'll be whatever it needs to be besides the defense is letting the team down. I'm not saying they did this week. I'm just saying throughout the season. But Ravens fans, it's kind of they're still stuck in that defense wins mindset, right? And I don't think that the organization feels any pressure to change because the fan base hasn't changed. We talk about all the time how we get into the middle of the season and Ravens fans, this is for years. Ravens fans will be like, man, these receivers are terrible. Oh man, we need a better O-line. Oh, we need a better running back. And then you get to the end of the season and you're like, man, that edge rusher looks good at the draft.
Yeah,
that corner looks good at the draft. Like it's almost like they're. I think the front office and the fans, to an extent, treat the draft as if it's in a vacuum. It's like it's a separate thing, right? Because the Ravens fans and the draft media get so caught up in Eric DeCosta getting value in the draft, right? They love the value picks that Baltimore makes. Okay, well, you're not getting any value out of Nate Wiggins. You're not getting any value out of Adisa Isaac. You're not getting any value out of TJ Tampa. You're not getting any value out of Tez Walker. Why don't you get some talent? Why don't you try that once? See if the talent makes a difference as opposed to getting the bargains.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Nick Samak, Sanusi Kane, Bo Braid. Although I don't think Bo Braid was drafted. I think he was undrafted.
He was undrafted. But then, Rasheen Ali, although he was active this week.
Yeah,
Shout out to Rasheen Ali.
Yeah, and again, these some of these guys might work out down the road, right? But in an off season where you didn't get everything that you needed, you have to hit on your early picks. That's not an option, especially at O-line. You just straight up passed up on O-linemen to go after the cornerback. You have to hit on the cornerback. And again, not to say that Nate Wiggins is even playing bad. He's just not playing good enough for what we need right now.
Yeah, you need a guy who's going to come in and make a difference right now if you're going to make that pick.
Yes. And
like the Eagles corner, Quinyon Mitchell.
Yes.
Playing very, very well.
Yes. And you decide to get a starting right tackle in the second round. That's fine. You got to hit on him. Mm-hmm. And again, he's solid, but not good enough for what you need right now. When we get to the playoffs, that O-line that everybody's saying, hey, we got to fix the O-line, there is no fixing it at this point. They didn't even make a trade at the trade deadline. They didn't do anything. I know it's hard to do that at the trade deadline, but you got to do what you got to do. And they did nothing. And they weren't even expecting this O-line to be good, right? EDC said next year for that. Mm-hmm. So they already told you how they felt about this team, but somehow we're expecting Lamar to carry this team, rise above all that. Bad O-line play, bad coaching, and just okay wide receivers. Right.
Yeah, and the bad coaching extends beyond John Harbaugh. I don't think Todd Monken's doing a good job.
Right.
He's done a good job of hiding the O line as best he can. I'll give him credit for that. But they're not doing a good job of getting, Andrews and Likely involved. They're not doing a good job of getting Henry and Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell involved. I was like, they haven't gotten Keaton Mitchell involved at all. They haven't even attempted it at this point. So I think that he's not done a great job of using even what he has on the roster. Even though we think that they need to be better at some of those positions, they do have some good players there, and you have to utilize them. And they really have not been able to do that over this year and last year with Todd Monken, which is odd because the big selling point for Todd Monken was, he was at Georgia. They used multiple tight ends. And
right.
He apparently can't do that in the NFL now.
Yeah. So they have a week to try to figure some things out. I'm talking about the coaching staff, right? Change up some things, change up personnel, and see if you can get back on track. Despite the deficiencies they have with the O-line, yes, it is possible to make the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. And the coaching has to get significantly better. All right. You got to figure out what's going on with your players. Why isn't Keaton Mitchell active? Why? I mean, did we even figure out what happened with Deontay Johnson?
They said that Harbaugh said he wasn't really ready to comment on it yet. Lamar said he's going to talk to Deontay and let him know they need him out there. Like I said, it sounds like he wouldn't go in the game. I don't know why that would be. And again, not 100% sure that's it, but that's what it sounds like when you say things like, I'm going to go talk to him and let him know that we need him out there. It sounds like, you try to put him in and he was like, no, y'all got that. You said Nelly and Bate was better. Y'all got that. Right. So that's kind of what it sounds like. I hope not, because I do think that Deontay's a really talented player, but he's not talented enough to do that.
That might warrant a separate video from this one. We have to get some more details on that, but I don't know. This is this is it for there's no more excuses. I don't care what's going on with that team. I don't care that the O-line just isn't good enough. And I'm not putting this on Lamar Jackson. He's having his best year to date, despite all that. It seems like he's the only one that goes in the offseason and actually tries to improve. I don't see this from anybody else. I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about coaches and GM and all that stuff. I don't see them getting better at their jobs.
Yeah. So
I don't want to hear any excuses from Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh. You better win. I don't want to hear about next year. I don't want to hear about, well, we need this or we're looking for that. You have the team that you wanted. You selected these guys. You put those guys on the field. This is exactly who you handpicked to win. So go win. All right, y'all. That's it for this video. Check us out on Wednesday. We're going to have a lot more to say about this. Check our next video. We're going to break down the Panthers. The Panthers are so close to a 4-game win streak. Yeah. We're going to talk about how the rest of their season is going to go and the new trajectory for Bryce Young. So hit that subscribe button if you're new here. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new videos that come out. And we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.